What up YouTube, it's Frisky Dingo here, getting back with you guys with another reaction / review video. Always remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on this video because we are on a 200k sub grind. That being said, today's video is reaction to Florida Senate Committee basically passing the Don't Say Gay bill. As we know, currently it's going through legislation route, which basically means that the committee has approved of it. Now it's going to go to the state and basically they're going to vote to see if they approve for this bill. But as of right now, the bill is not inactive or legal law. But Joe Biden tweeted out to it in response is because we all know that the bill is going to be passed, just like the abortion bill in Texas. And, you know, this is very normal. A lot of people have a misunderstanding of societal normatives, especially when there's progression. A lot of times these type of things start to fold back in because of the progression of society. If it's either politics or if it's either, you know, with vaccines or anything, get a culture, identity, race war. Basically meaning that at this certain point in time, people are going to feel as though they need to hold on to their nativism ideologies when they feel like they're being attacked from all sides, right? Because you got the COVID going on, you have the mask thing going on, you got Joe Rogan being attacked, all these other different things, you know, even including the whole Trump January 6th insurrection. So at this point we're at a whole culture war. That being said, you know, obviously this is wrong. They started with, you know, abortions, which is, you know, crazy, wildly sexist. Then they start with books, you know, banning things like V for Vendetta and Mouse, you know, which is, you know, even crazy because even in that book list of banned books, they also have the new Jim Crow, which is extremely weird because the new Jim Crow book is actually a historical book in reference to explaining the current incarceration system that exists and the urban pipeline of school to prison that exists, and so on and so forth. So, you know, it's just really sad that this is exactly what naturally happens when progression does happen to a certain extent. And I don't think, once again, that, you know, it's going to be anything different compared to what people were experiencing in the early 1900s. I don't think anything different than what people were experiencing the early 1800s, the early 1900s, the early 1990s. There always seems to be a point when we, you know, expound upon our culture, identity, and representation, and then here comes like at least 5 to 10 more years of entrenchment. And that's very normal in the political cycle of the United States. It's very normal for this to happen. You have progression and then you have things like this start to happen. And this just goes back to people's nativism. You know, if you tell a certain group of people that, you know, their identities, their culture, everything they live with and think is normalized, it's basically going away, then it's like a cat or a dog that's put into a corner. They're gonna claw or scratch you for survival, and that's basically what's going on. These people are clawing and scratching to keep their identity, their culture put in place. But, you know, ideally, if you're somebody and you're upset at a book like V for Vendetta, a graphic novel, that lets me know one thing: you want to be an oppressor. Like, stand up and speak about things, because even V for Vendetta, you know, we don't live in a fascist state. So for people to be upset about a character who fights against fascism is kind of weird, right? Like, we're America. Didn't we fight against fascism? World War II, that was the whole point of that entire war. You know, people fighting against, you know, things that were holding people's rights away, even though we were having our own rights stripping away here in America during that time. So we're still seeing more of that analogy, that you know, that misrepresentation, that even people who want to believe that America is doing the right thing and want to keep these values aren't necessarily doing it in the right way. Because why? Because it's just going to continue to spread hatred, right? This goes back to when Barack Obama passed the gay marriage law. Basically what we're dealing with now is the repercussions of that. It's been many years that conservatives were saying that we need to repeal that Barack Obama making gay marriage was wrong, legal was wrong, etc., etc. So we're basically with that current backlash. So that's what we're facing at this point. So honestly, I don't think that, once again, I think all of this is wrong. It's a bill that, it's like basically passing a bill like they're trying to do with critical race theory. But unfortunately, you can't pass any of that, because when you're creating the laws and they look at it, critical race theory isn't taught in between pre-K to high school. It's like pretty much a college undergraduate graduate class. So that's why they couldn't really push the critical race theory thing, and that's why they moved forward with banning books, because necessarily you cannot ban something that isn't being taught in schools. But gay history is, gay identity is, so therefore they're gonna try to attack that first, compared to black history, which they've spent the last like 50, 60 to 100 years trying to do that. So it doesn't surprise me at this point that they would continue to try to, basically move the notion that black history needs to be hidden. But with the Don't Say Gay bill, it takes that to the next extent, because black history, even in itself, was always hidden. That's why you have people like Carter G. Woodson, who advocated for Black History Month, and during his era, Black History Week. That's why Black History Month became so prevalent, because of that factor of history being hidden. And basically, as Carter G. Woodson said, when you hide history, you make it as if black people have not given a contribution to the society in which we live in. We've been here as equal standing as the exact other counterpart race. So therefore, we should have an equal standing in the history being taught. Once again, a lot of people have had their family members be here since 14, 16, 15. I know I could trace back my family history all the way to back then. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't hide that history. And now that we have gay history, it works just like the same way. Gay people, they come in all shapes and colors and sizes. There's gay black men, there's white gay men, etc., etc., etc. So therefore, to hide the history and make it seem as though it's okay to create a bill that says don't say gay or keep it mum's the word, that's not okay. That's a direct attack on civil liberties. If anything, I think this situation just exposed our federal government for being the worthless sack of poop that it is. First, Texas attacks women with abortions. Now, Tennessee with books, and now Florida with gay rights. That's disgusting. Like, it makes no sense. And this is why we always go back to the theology of that America is a republic, because if it truly was the democratic government that's being instated, then people would have that type of equality for all representation, right? But no, laws are being passed to basically suppress history and information, which is ignorant and pretty much goes and coincide with what we understand with what's going on with teachers being attacked. Critical thinking not being appreciated, teachers being undervalued, not being properly given the right raises, having to support their own students and things like that. All of these all come into a part. We're at a point in time in history where intellectualism, critical thinking, these things are not allowed. It's just reactionary. That goes to both sides. If it be the left, if it be the right, everybody just wants their reactionary opinion to be validated, and that's it. So do I think this is going to be okay? No, I do not. This is only going to continue to thread the line of people's rights and identity, and if anything, this is just creating a discourse in comparison of the early 1900s. As we understood, in the early 1900s, we were moving away from slavery, the late 1800s, and then the idealization of regular people was changing. But then as the early 1900s came in, black people were being successful, owning their own towns, their own businesses, creating wealth. And then the entrenchment started to begin. The attacks on black towns, the attacks on, random black people, all the way up to Emmett Till, from Redwood, all the way to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to the Coup in North Carolina, to the draft, the first actual big skirmish of the modern time, which was the draft riots of New York. When, if you ever watch that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Liam Neeson, I think it's not the Tale of Two Cities. I forgot the movie. It's Tale of something. But basically it's representation of exactly that. Even during the eras where black people, even after coming here in 1614, we were still living here in the late 1800s, and we were being flogged and attacked and killed, basically because New York made it legal for black people and Irish people and Jewish people to all serve in state positions and or the military together. And because of all of that, the Polish, Jewish, and Irish people who came here as ethnic workers were basically told that they had to work in unison with black people. And because of that, those groups of people rose up in New York and started what was called the 1800 draft riots, which basically had a bunch of people of ethnic white European races come into black communities and push them out and destroy it. So a perfect example is that many people don't know, back in the late 1800s, black people owned what is currently Wall Street, right? We owned the entire lower Manhattan, not the entirety of it, but we own predominantly of it, because everybody knows what is right next to, coinciding with Battery Park, the Brooklyn Bridge. To a certain extent, we had that ability to you know, basically create wealth. And what ended up happening is that these people went into our areas and lit them on fire and kicked us out. And that's why black people currently don't have a standing in Battery Park, literally because the 1800 draft riots, which allowed all these other people to take these positions in power and basically have us in the worst positions in New York. And that's a little bit of New York history for you. So yeah, you know what, like I said, if we could try to continue to make things a little bit better and create an environment that's a little bit more appeasing for the generations that are coming next, that would be extremely pleasant. And I just hope that, you know, as black people, as gay people, as anybody with identity, we realize what's happening moving forward, and we start to change our tune in the way that we deal with each other. Because if we don't unitize together, then identities are going to be crushed, our cultures, our histories, and things like that, and we've come too far to be removed again. If we got any more news or any updates on DeSantis and his crazy 1900s laws, then we'll definitely go ahead and get into the next one. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.